So, episode 3 of High Potential starts off intense. There's this guy who gets drowned in a bathtub, and it's honestly one of those moments where you're immediately like, whoa, this is not going to end well. Fast forward to the next day. Morgan shows up at the crime scene, and Karadic's already there, acting all smug and challenging her to prove there's been a cover-up. And Morgan, she's sharp. She starts noticing these little details that are so easy to miss. Streaks on the floor, a towel folded wrong for a hotel, and a wiped whiskey glass. It's subtle, but enough to point to the victim being drugged. Then they talk to this bartender who confirms the victim was with a blonde woman the night before. That sets off a whole new trail. They dig into some security footage, and what stands out is that this woman parked illegally and didn't get a ticket. That's when it clicks. She's probably a doctor because only doctors can park like that during emergencies. They bring her in, and while she admits to knowing the victim, Karadic is quick to jump to conclusions and assumes she's the killer. He's always so sure of himself, right? But Morgan, being Morgan, remembers something he missed. There were candles in the room, and based on how long they burn, she figures out that the candles were lit after the doctor had left. I love how Morgan thinks outside the box. It's small stuff like that really keeps the investigation going. Meanwhile, there's another mystery brewing with Selena, who's looking into a mural that Roman painted years ago. It feels like a side plot, but it'll probably tie into something bigger later. But back to Morgan and Karadic. What's wild is they find out the victim wasn't even who he said he was. He'd stolen someone else's identity, which throws a whole wrench into things. I remember thinking, wait, what? Because I didn't see that twist coming. Morgan digs deeper, from home of course, and she spots something about the guy's pants. They were stitched by a tailor from Madagascar, which seems like a random detail, but it actually leads them to more clues. They eventually uncover that the victim's real name was Eduardo, and this is where things start to spiral. The guy had a secret life. He wasn't just scamming people, he had a family too. It just makes everything more complicated. They find his car and track down his wife and daughter, which is heartbreaking in its own way, because they had no idea who Eduardo really was. And as if that's not enough, there's more. He was involved in scamming a woman with dementia, so we're not just dealing with a murder anymore. Eduardo was deep in some shady stuff. Now, the episode really picks up when Morgan figures out how the killer got into the room. Turns out, someone scaled the building from the outside. I know, sounds crazy, but the building had these grooves, and with the right climbing gear, it was possible. This is when it all starts to come together. They eventually realize that Eduardo was involved with this bartender from earlier. Karadic goes to confront him, and the guy pulls a knife. Things get super tense, and Karadic and Morgan end up in a huge argument. Morgan gets fed up and quits. I didn't expect that, but honestly, their partnership is starting to crack. Then, in classic Morgan fashion, she has this aha moment and realizes the killer had short nails, which would have helped them climb the building. Turns out, the killer is this guy named Kyle, and he killed Eduardo to get revenge for his mom, who was one of Eduardo's scam victims. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just Kyle. The doctor actually helped him by unlocking the window and giving him money because she was another one of Eduardo's victims. That twist completely caught me off guard, but it made so much sense in the end.